Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What kind of slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you for Better Off Dead Friday, October 17th. 1-0 on the show yesterday. Winnipeg Jets, fairly easy win. Maybe should have been a little bit less selective, man. It seems like if I just kind of splash the board, I do better. I don't know. Winnipeg was solid. Neither team actually had a lot of shots in that game. It was kind of crazy that Winnipeg got as many goals as they did, but high percentage shots, I guess. I don't know, man. Seems like it was a game that should have been lower scoring than that, but they got the win anyway. I was correct about Edmonton. What were some of the, or not Edmonton, the Islanders against Edmonton. I forget what some of the other leans were that I had. The college football game wound up being correct, although it was close. Tulsa got in within that number. They lost by 14, so they covered. If anybody played that one based on my recommendation. I actually wound up picking the Cincinnati Bengals and pick them, which I apologize for not having that one nailed down yet. But that was a really difficult read for me, so I watched the late market read, and that was what pretty much decided where I was going to go with the pick on that one. That was not going to be a game that was going to get my money, though, which hopefully I made pretty clear on the show. But also, the stat that Jeffrey pointed out with the Tomlin is just terrible on Thursday night. I also saw another stat where Joe Flacco is actually really good against Mike Tomlin, so I don't know, all those things being considered, getting the underdog price at home, I was like, yeah, I think we got to do it that way. Jeffrey, speaking of which, what's up, man? Stacks, what's up, man? Yeah, it looked like Pittsburgh was going to start running away with that game early. I think they were up 10-0 almost right out of the gate, and then the game got way closer. Cincinnati actually flipped it to a 10-point lead of their own, I think, in the fourth quarter. That game was a crazy game, dude. It came down to the end, and then Pittsburgh probably should have won the game. They lost the turnover battle, and that's pretty much why they lost the game. Both aged quarterbacks actually did fairly well, except Aaron Rodgers did have 2 interceptions, which was somewhat the difference in the game. One of them was his fault. The other wasn't really. Those turnovers were kind of the difference in the game, to be honest. And Rodgers had that one ridiculous passing play late in the fourth quarter. But the problem was they scored too quickly. That was to take the lead back for Pittsburgh. They left way too much time on the clock. And it looked like they were almost still going to win the game after they sacked Flacco on that, what might have been the final, basically was the final drive there for Cincinnati. But Cincinnati was able to still get a pass off to Chase, and he had a huge run after the catch to get huge yardage there and continue the drive. And they wound up getting to field goal range to win the game on that. And T. Higgins with a very smart play at the end of that game to get down, because it was a play where it looked like he could have potentially just run in for a touchdown, but he decided to slide down so that his team could take almost all the rest of the time off the clock and then kick the field goal. Very heads-up play by I think it was Higgins on that catch there. That was it was an interesting game. I was kind of rooting for Aaron Rodgers, but I don't know. Some things don't quite look. I mean, I don't mind Joe Flacco either, but some things don't look quite right there with Pittsburgh, like team chemistry wise. I don't know, man. Like Rodgers, I don't know. He was definitely like, I mean, as a quarterback should do. He was getting mad at like Jalen Warren at one point for running the wrong route. Like I think Warren like ran like what he thought was going to be a flea flicker when it wasn't a flea flicker. I don't know what that was. And then there was the other play where after the huge touchdown that Rodgers threw, one of his huge offensive linemen, I think, basically tackled him, which you don't want to do that. It's like a 40-something-year-old. You can injure the guy. And and Rodgers like shoved him off and like flipped out. And like, I don't know. I think Rodgers was kind of in the right on that one. Like, you don't aggressively tackle your quarterback. Like, what the fuck? It's like, you see people get mad about that in like, practice and stuff when you're not supposed to hit your own quarterback like to that extent. So I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous. The Icy Hot Bowl. Yeah, that's right. The Ben Gay Bowl. It was an interesting game. Both quarterbacks did put up pretty good numbers though. Like, Flacco had a lot of pass attempts. He had a lot of yards. Rodgers didn't have as many pass attempts, but put up some decent stats in the game. I think Rodgers had 4 touchdowns, and Flacco had 3. But Flacco also, I don't think, had an interception. Yeah. Let's get into today. I'm going to have one play. It's going to be in hockey. We're going to be very selective again. I have one game that I almost was going to play in college football. Like, I thought it was going to be a play, and then I looked into it, and I'm like, it's like right on the borderline, so we'll talk about all that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we can get into it, man. We do have baseball, which I don't really want to have anything to do with these baseball games today. Crazy, the road teams have been winning like all these games, man. The only game so far not won by the road team was the Dodgers winning at home last night. Ben Gay would be Roethlisberger against Burrow, but because it's Ben versus a guy who's gay. I get it. That took me a second. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, that does make sense. I like it. All right, yeah, Toronto and Seattle is going to be the first game up here, though. Toronto even the series as the road team has won every game in the series, which not what you would expect really, because these teams are both better at home than on the road. That remains the case, but Seattle is in trouble now, man. After they won the first 2 games on the road, I thought that the series was essentially over. All Seattle really had to do was win one of the next 2 games. They couldn't do it. They couldn't beat Max Scherzer last night, even though he got into trouble numerous times. He had 4 walks in like 5 innings, 5 1/3 innings or something. He still was able to somehow get his way out of it, though, with his veteran nature, I guess, and making smart pitches at the right times. Luis Castillo, I almost think they pulled Castillo too early in the game, man, when he walked the bases loaded and they pulled him. He might have been able to get out of that with the same amount of damage. They wound up allowing 1 run in that inning. And because they pulled him, then it was just Seattle bullpen from then on, and that was a huge problem because now their bullpen is used up coming into this game. It's not good, man. Even though Toronto has the somewhat worse of these 2 bullpens, look at the bullpen usage yesterday. Toronto's was lighter, although they did use some of their better relief pitchers yesterday. Seattle kind of also did, so neither team is really in Seattle. Like, really the only good relief pitcher they have that they didn't use, I would say, is Munoz. So Seattle's bullpen is in somewhat worse shape coming into this because they used more of it yesterday. Still don't think they should have taken Castillo out that early, man. I mean, kind of surprising to see him not do that well, but if they had left him in, maybe he would have settled down again and still done okay. Maybe could have worked out of that inning, only allowing 1 run or something, or maybe even 2, and then maybe they still would have been better off because the bullpen allowed more runs. I don't know, man. Dirty Sock, what's up? Thanks for hanging out again. Dirty Sock, I believe, won a gigantic parlay. I think he was telling me a huge parlay win for him with a couple of my picks and some of his own, which I usually recommend against parlays when you're doing it for like a small amount, just, for some fun, maybe try to hit it big. Yeah, I mean, why not? Have some fun with it. But they don't give you good enough odds on the parlays. But when it does hit, obviously you do win a decent amount out of it. But yeah, Toronto at Seattle today. Toronto does have the better of the 2 offenses. As we've seen, Toronto hitting really well, even though they're in this pitcher-friendly park here. They got Kevin Gossman back on the mound here, who was the guy. He's like their number one starter. He started game 1 in the series, 3.59 ERA, 1.06 whip on the season. He was actually good on the road as well, 3.33 ERA on the road. He's made 2 starts in the postseason, went 5 2/3 innings in each of them, allowed 3 combined runs against the Yankees and then against Seattle. He picked up a win against the Yankees, took the loss in the Seattle game. In the same starting pitching matchup that we have today was the matchup in game 1. So Seattle did win that one, although Gossman was not bad in the game. He had 5 strikeouts, 1 walk, allowed 2 earned runs, 3 hits. He was solid. He has solid numbers against Seattle as well, 155 at bats, 42-10 strikeout walk ratio, 232 batting average allowed, 666 OPS is a little bit evil, but Gossman's numbers are good against them. The only hitter really on Seattle that really does a lot of damage against him is Cal Raleigh, who has 4 home runs off him. Other than that, not a ton of hitting from this Seattle offense against him. So he might actually do pretty well again here. He's going up against Bryce Miller, who wound up getting the number 1 pitching role in the series. It's just the way that it worked out because of Seattle having to go 5 games in the last series. They had to shift their rotation, which might come back to hurt them because they don't have the better starter here. Although I will say that Miller, throughout his career, he's been better than he was this year. This year he was trying to bounce back from Tommy John surgery. He did start pitching better towards the end of the season, although his numbers look really bad, obviously. 5.68 ERA, 1.41 whip. He was actually worse at home, 5.8 ERA. Usually that's not the case throughout his career, though, but he did start pitching a bit better. He's been decent in the playoffs so far, although not as good as Gossman, really. He pitched 4 1/3 against Detroit to try to kind of build him up again to start pitching more in the playoffs. Gave up 2 earned runs in that one. And then he went 6 innings in game 1 at Toronto, gave up 1 earned run, although he did have a 3-3 strikeout walk ratio, which isn't exactly great. But he's been fine so far in the playoffs. That was a good start for him, and he was really efficient. He only threw 76 pitches, so he's not burned out. And now he has a little bit of like playoff experience, whereas coming into this postseason, I don't think he really did. But now that he has a couple of games under his belt, maybe that's a little bit better for him. Although, as we saw last night, the experience wound up being the determining factor last night, with Scherzer being the veteran over Castillo being a bit younger. Scherzer with more playoff experience. So I think Scherzer has 2 World Series wins as well, if I'm not mistaken, with Washington and Texas. Within the last 5 or 6 years, too, I think both of them happened. So, yeah, I mean, Scherzer was the guy, the veteran there. Gossman is obviously the more experienced of these 2 pitchers. Although Miller has been pitching better recently, like I said, he's not worn out or anything because they've been not really limiting his pitches necessarily, but he's just been pretty efficient. His numbers against Toronto are fairly good. In 49 at-bats, 204 batting average allowed is very low. 658 OPS, not bad either. The only problem really is the walks. 7 strikeouts, 6 walks. It's a low strikeout rate. The walk rate actually isn't really that high. It's just the strikeout rate is pretty low against them. This Toronto team, they draw a lot of walks, actually, just generally. They're a patient hitting team. Toronto is now without Santander, by the way. One of their better hitters is now injured, and I think he probably isn't coming back for the remainder of the postseason. So that's a bit of a blow to Toronto's lineup, and they're already without Bichette, although they do have a good lineup anyway, even without those 2 guys. But just a little bit of a concern there for them. Looking at the market here, because I don't really have a good read on this game, man. Toronto is a road favorite, but they're pretty public as the public just kind of sways with the wind. 70% of tickets on them, only 68% of the cash on Toronto. Down from -115 to -110 here. So the market read is basically saying to take the shot with Seattle, fade the public, and take them as a very small home underdog here. I mean, I have my concerns about it, obviously, but I mean, that is kind of the way the market is telling you to go. So, I mean, that would kind of be the determining factor for me there, but I kind of worry about the experience factor, man. If I was going to play this game at all, I'd be looking towards maybe an under, but I don't love the way the bullpens are set up here. I do think both pitchers could do well, and because Toronto scored so many runs in the first couple of games, which I think is kind of an outlier in a stadium like this. The odds makers are just saying, yeah, nah, we're still going to put this total up at a low number, although it actually already dropped from 8 to 7. 7 juice to the over. Maybe you can find a 7.5 out there if you can. I mean, it's a key number at least. You do have to worry about the bullpen usage here, but I do think that the under may be worth taking a look at. Maybe a first 5 inning under. I know it seems dangerous after what we've seen the last couple of days, and if one pitcher kind of starts unraveling, you kind of lose that, because I think it's probably going to be about a 3.5 number on the first 5, but I think that might actually be my preferred approach in this game, would be the under in the first 5 innings, but I don't want to touch the game, really. 2% difference. I think it says something when it's it just kind of tells you that more of the actual money is coming in against the public ticket percentage. I mean, yeah, it's something that I look for. I would like to see like a larger discrepancy than that, but like I don't bet just based on that. But I mean, I use it as a guide. But yeah, I would say, I mean, I think seeing the cash percentage lower than the ticket percentage is definitely an indicator, rather than seeing it like higher than the ticket percentage. Anytime you start seeing it a little bit lower than like that, I'm basically starting to think, yeah, I mean, I've been seeing the market move throughout the morning too. So like prior to this, it was like I saw 64% for both of these numbers a little while ago, and now it looks like it's kind of swinging a little bit, where it looks like more tickets are coming in on Toronto, but more of the actual money is coming in against them on Seattle. So yeah, I think it's a decent indicator, even though it is only 2%. I think when the game happens, maybe it'll be less than that. But even if it's only 2%, I mean, that is better than seeing it like shift. Like that's different than seeing it shifted in like the other, like seeing the disparity in the other direction, if that makes sense. I don't know, but I kind of just use it as a guide. I use it in football, like to make my picks quite a bit. This is only one website though, pregame, where their numbers are coming from a combination of, I mean, we can actually see the books if we really want. Their numbers are coming from, let me see here. I can't believe they give you all these numbers for free, by the way. But let me see, because you used to be able to see. Maybe you can't see the specific book anymore. You used to be able to see it. I don't know where it is, but yeah, they used to show you every single book that they tracked, and you could see like what the odds were at the different books. But now I don't see it. So maybe they got rid of that. I don't know, because they used to give you like a lot of information. Like there used to be, I think, a drop down right here that was like, oh, like I wanted to show the sides, and then you could see, I think it was an extra drop down here. I don't know. But like they track like, I think the Vegas casinos. So it helps because they're doing that. Whereas like on Action Network, which I pay for, they actually only track like the online books. So their numbers, you see like a totally different like skew on Action Network. And I think this skew is actually better to read, because this includes like not only like the main online books, but it also includes like the offshore online books, which are more like those are books where like professionals bet more so, like Bookmaker is and like Pinnacle and stuff like that. Those get included in these numbers, I think. And those are books that are known for like catering to the professionals. So like those numbers, like if you see like a slightly different number on those books, that's kind of indicating that's where like the professional lean is. And then the Vegas casinos are always like almost more of like a public skew there, but less of a skew than you would see with like DraftKings or something. Although I think this might track DraftKings too, but DraftKings, it's just such a high number, like high volume at DraftKings. It just skews what the numbers are. And I think when you're only tracking books like that, it skews them too much as far as like what the public is doing, and you can't really even see what the professionals are actually doing, if that makes sense. Whereas because here they track those professional books, they only track they're tracking mostly the Vegas casinos and stuff. I think you can actually kind of see more of what the professionals are doing here, because the Vegas casinos get both, and some of them cater more towards professionals, some of them cater more towards public. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but now I'm rambling. Ben, what's up, man? Ohtani, over 6.5 strikeouts. I would say no on that. I mean, we don't even know how long he's going to pitch into the game. He's swinging. Yeah. Did he get a home run finally? I don't know. Oh yeah, it was an 8-leg parlay. That's right. The Bruins but the Bruins didn't win. Uh, I did mention I thought the Bruins were the right lean. I think I gave that out as a lean, right? The Bruins on the puck line plus the 1.5. It was a close game. But yeah, they were losing by 2 later in the game, I think, or they might have even been losing by 3 actually, and then they cut it back down. It was a high-scoring game, man, which usually high scoring means that you're less likely to cover that underdog puck line. But anyway, yeah, Brewers down 0-3, man. They're done. I mean, we know the only team that ever came back from the 3-0 deficit was my Boston Red Sox against the New York Yankees. And the Red Sox did it as the road team in the series. Milwaukee's going to have to do it as the home team in the series, which means they're on the road now in the middle. So they're going to have to win their first 2 games on the road first, then win back at home. Maybe you could argue that that's a better setup than what the Red Sox were in, because the Red Sox had to win not only the last 2 at home after they got down 3-0, but then they had to win 2 games at New York, which they did. So maybe that was actually more difficult for the Red Sox to do that. But this game, it's going to be hard to predict because Milwaukee is, again, not telling us who their starter is going to be. It's going to be a bullpen game again. Last night they had Ashby open the game again, and their pitching wasn't bad. It was a low-scoring game. It's just Glasnow, I mean, he's really good. There's only so much you could do against that. I believe Milwaukee used Mizurowski out of the bullpen there. I don't even know if he's listed on here. He is. Yeah, so like I thought, Mizurowski was kind of the main piece. He's a piece, man. He's a tall, handsome young man, I guess. Mizurowski was the main guy yesterday for them after Ashby opened the game. I think Ashby went 1, maybe 2 innings, whatever. Then Mizurowski came in. They wound up using 4 guys out of their bullpen. But with all these bullpen games, their bullpen usage is a lot more. As you can see, the Dodgers have hardly used anybody. The Dodgers have the most rested bullpen out of any of these 4 teams right now. So that's pretty good for the Dodgers coming into this. I mean, their starting pitching has just been insane. Like, their starting pitching, for the most part, has gone like the full game up until last night. I think Glasnow didn't go that deep into the game because they used 4 relief pitchers yesterday. But Milwaukee's bullpen is still a little bit more used than the Dodgers right now, even though Milwaukee generally does have the better bullpen. But they're going with another bullpen game here. The guy who pitches the most for Milwaukee today is likely to be Quinn Priester, because that's the way the rotation is set up. Milwaukee really hurting right now with Quintana hurt. Woodruff is hurt. Milwaukee might have been able to do something in this series if they had those guys. They would have actually at least had a decent rotation. But the Dodgers, I mean, they're just going old school, man. They're going like pure starting pitching rotation. All these guys going deep into games, basically, which I like because it's old school baseball. Even though I don't really like the Dodgers, I can't really argue with what they're doing here. And they're going with Ohtani in this one. We don't know how deep he's going to go into the game, though. And we can take a look at his splits. ESPN won't let you see his batter versus pitcher stats, so he pitched well at home this year, 1.71 home ERA. If you look at his pitching so far, he only made 1 start in the playoffs so far, so they're spreading his pitching out a little bit. He threw 89 pitches in 6 innings back on October 4th at Philadelphia. Picked up the win in the game, allowed 3 earned runs, had 9 strikeouts, 1 walk, so he was solid in that outing. He's been solid as a pitcher just generally, man, so I assume he's going to continue to pitch pretty well here. I don't know what his numbers really are against Milwaukee. We can see if he faced them this year, but looks like he did not because he only started pitching later in the year, which it's going to mean these Milwaukee hitters are pretty unfamiliar with Ohtani, though. So, I mean, you guys are talking about the Ohtani, strikeout prop. And that number seems high to me, though. I think you're paying a price because it's Ohtani, the 6.5. I mean, the worry is that you don't really know how deep he's going to go into this game because it's, this could be a game where maybe it's a blowout and maybe they take him out, or maybe, there are multiple reasons. Weird things can happen in the playoffs. There are multiple reasons why Ohtani might not go that deep. Maybe they want to save him for the World Series to some extent. They don't want to overwork him. He still hasn't, before this year, he hadn't pitched in the last couple of years. So there are some reasons why he might not go that deep into this game. Milwaukee does hit fairly well on the road. Dodgers hit really well at home as well. Total in this one is down from 8 to 7.5. These games have actually been lower scoring than the other series, which seems kind of crazy given the Dodgers basically have the best offense that's left out of these teams, although Toronto's is close. Maybe you'll finally wind up seeing scoring in this game, although I wouldn't really want to fade Ohtani as far as that's concerned. The Dodgers are also a very heavy favorite, up from minus 178 to minus 192. I mean, if you want to play the Dodgers, I mean, again, could be a run line type of situation, although yesterday you would have barely gotten away with it as they only scored 3 runs. So the concern is you might not get all 9 innings out of their offense, needing them to cover a minus 1.5 run line. A little bit of a concern there, although, you know, maybe you look that way. Maybe you could look for the Dodgers to go over their team total because I think maybe it'll be a bit of a higher scoring game. I don't like the Milwaukee pitching situation here at all, so maybe just go with the Dodgers to score runs here. Might make sense. You get probably a little bit of a lower price here because the overall total is low. So maybe that's the way to look in that one. A loser with the under in the Oilers-Islanders. That was close, right? It was a 6. It landed 6 with it. Dude, I think it was an empty netter for the Islanders. Again, the empty netters are under killers. Like, there's so many empty netters. I never want to play an under in hockey. But yeah, that game, I mean, as you know, that game I would have taken the side with the Islanders in that one. All right, hockey today. We have 4 hockey games here. The late one is really the one, really uninteresting one. The first 2 games up at 7 p.m. are actually pretty good games. Tampa Bay at Detroit. This one, I mean, you kind of look at it and you see Tampa's 1-2-1 right now. Detroit's 3-1-0. So it makes Detroit look maybe a little bit better than they are. Although they've been tested a bit. I mean, they beat Toronto twice, and then they beat Florida. But you got to think there's going to be a letdown in order here at some point. And as Jeffrey does keep pointing out, Florida is dealing with injuries right now. Maybe this is a letdown spot, even though I know it's a divisional game. It is Tampa. Tampa's good. So it's not like you really expect Detroit to overlook Tampa Bay here. But coming off a big game against the returning champs, man, the back-to-back returning champs could still be a bit of a letdown. And I think what we're looking at is kind of some misleading records here. And then they do have Edmonton up next, although Edmonton's an out-of-conference game. I know it is Edmonton. It's a big game, but I don't know that you could really say that that's a look ahead as far as this is concerned because Tampa is a divisional game. So I think both teams are going to show up for it. By the way, as far as a look ahead, I forgot to mention in that Steeler game last night, even though last night was a big game, so I don't think the look ahead was really much of a concern. Maybe it was a bit bigger to Cincinnati because if they lost that game, they would have basically been dead. But Pittsburgh does have the Aaron Rodgers Bowl up next. They have to play Green Bay next, which is a high ticket price in that game. So just pointing that out, I think it's Rodgers' return to Green Bay in that game. That is next. So, yeah. Get the cement the under by the end of the second period. I mean, if you want to go unders in hockey, you could do maybe you can even do an under that doesn't include, I don't even know if they allow that. I think you can do unders in individual periods. Maybe do under in the first period, under in the second period, and parlay those two together. I mean, I don't know, man, because the third period just ruins those things. I'm still not sure I agree with that. Florida winning in Buffalo. I don't think it's a good spot. I think it's a sandwich spot for Florida, which I'll talk about on Saturday. But anyway, yeah, this game, Detroit, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is a road favorite here, and they're a road favorite for a reason. Down from minus 155 to minus 150. 52% of tickets, 61% of the cash on Tampa. So the money is coming in on Tampa. I mean, looking at these teams' records, right, it almost looks like you would want to take Detroit here because they have the better record. They're the home underdog here. I wouldn't do it. I would go with it maybe being a bit of a letdown. I would play Tampa if I was going to play this game. Tampa's coming off a big game, too. They lost in overtime to Washington, but they've had an extra day off, at least, so they've had to travel from Washington to Detroit. But they've just had a rough start to the season. They've had it difficult so far. Ottawa, New Jersey. Their only win was a tight win against Boston, who's playing a little bit better than people thought they would, at least. Thankfully, I guess. But yeah, Tampa hasn't had it. Both of these teams have had fairly difficult schedules so far, so it's a little bit of a wash, I guess. Tampa, by the way, did play Ottawa before Brady Tkachuk went down. I forgot to mention that yesterday. I leaned to Ottawa yesterday, which was correct. They won in overtime. They're without their captain, Kachuk, for a long time now. I think he's out for like 6 to 8 weeks with some injury now, so something to keep in mind there as well. Although, even with your captain going down, I still think it's not a huge impact in hockey. I think hockey becomes more of an impact when you start getting like injuries piling up all on one side of the ice or something like that. Because hockey's, a game of lines, so even your best player is really only going to be on the ice for, like the majority of the ice time. It's still not like they're not going to be out there all 60 minutes. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, I would lean to Tampa in this game slightly. All that being said, that is incorrect. Courtside tickets to the Celtics, I absolutely do not have that. Season tickets, no. Very, very expensive to do that. I go to the Celtics playoff games, and I get good seats for those. So I've been not really courtside, but I've been like in the first row of like the loge in a couple of different games. I was behind the basket in the first row for the Knicks game, the last Celtics game I went to, which we don't want to remember. Celtics blowing a 20-point something lead, I think twice in a row, and then I was at game 1 of that one, and then Tatum wound up getting hurt, and basically season over. Now this season is over too. Absolutely ridiculous. I was in row 1 for the I was across the court, like looking directly across at the Jaylen Brown 3-pointer against Indiana the previous year. That ridiculous game where the Celtics looked like they were going to lose, came back, won the game. Brown hit that crucial 3-pointer from the corner. I was at that game, and I was on the opposite side of the court from where it happened, like watching it happen. Minnesota at Washington. Interesting game, although I think Minnesota's overrated, as I keep saying. Washington was a little bit overrated last year, too, but they're on a nice run right now after they lost to Boston in their season opener. They beat the Islanders, the Rangers, Tampa in overtime last time up, and now they've had a few days off, staying at home. Maybe a little bit of a bad spot for Washington. It could be a little bit of a letdown off of that win over Tampa. Minnesota's an out-of-conference team, and you don't really want to have that much time off while just sitting at home kind of basking in that win. So I could kind of stall out your momentum a little bit. I think the spot's a little bit better for Minnesota. Minnesota's coming in off kind of an ugly loss, although it was to Dallas, who might be the best team in the NHL. They're having to travel up to Washington from Dallas, though. Or over to Washington from Dallas with the same amount of time off. But with that amount of time off, even though it is travel, that might help them kind of just forget about that loss and just kind of gather themselves up after that and maybe play a better game here. So I would have a slight lean to Minnesota in this one. Washington does look pretty public, 77% of tickets and cash on them. Line on them is down from -125 to -121. So maybe both teams are a little bit overrated because Washington's basically only getting home ice for the most part on this price, which I consider to be about 20 cents. The -120, I think, is basically the home ice advantage, essentially, for hockey. So interesting there. Vancouver, Chicago is going to be my play. And then San Jose and Utah is not necessarily an interesting game. I mean, San Jose is so bad that Utah is a massive favorite here. Utah, good, decent record so far, but their 2 wins have been against Nashville and Calgary, and those teams are not very good. They actually lost to Chicago on the road, and they did lose at Colorado. There's no shame in that, but Utah's had a pretty easy schedule so far, although the easy schedule continues because San Jose is probably the worst team in the league. Not really much to see here, though. I'm just talking about it because there aren't that many games here. They're coming off that win over Calgary, staying at home. That was in a return home spot, but it was Utah's home opener, and I did say I leaned to Utah in that game. San Jose, they only have 1 regulation loss, but they don't have a win yet. This is going to be their first road game, too, this late into the season. Kind of a strange situation, having to go into elevation and into kind of unfamiliar territory into Utah because Utah, they were new last year, basically, even though they are the remnants of Arizona. After Arizona kind of had to disband their team, they basically just reformed. So they're technically an expansion team. And now they have named themselves the Mammoth, which people are making fun of. I don't think it's that bad of a name, to be honest. It sounds it sounds like pretty badass, to be honest. It kind of sounds like Mastodon, the band, which I do like them. The Mammoth, which Mammoth is also a band with Wolfgang Van Halen in that band. They're actually pretty solid. But yeah, San Jose, I mean, they're coming off a blowout loss to Carolina. They're going out on the road, which maybe will actually help them a little bit, just get away from home when you've been losing every game. But I don't have much of a read on this game at all. The Mammoth are up from minus 236 to minus 250. 67% of tickets, 73% of the cash on San Jose, though. I mean, this game is the hardest one to read. Like, your guess is as good as mine on this one, man. I'm not going to have anything to do with it. And then I'll give out the best bet now just because we're still talking hockey. I don't know if it's going to be what you think it is or not, because the market read looks like it's maybe kind of against it. We're going to go with the Chicago Blackhawks plus 125. I should have given them out as a play in their previous game, and I know they're coming off a really good-looking win against St. Louis, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, the Utah game against Nashville, the Predators, whatever that was, a couple games ago. I saw somebody say this is the NHL's first prehistoric matchup because the Predators logo is like a saber-toothed tiger and Utah's the woolly mammoth. I was like, yeah, that's pretty hilarious. Anyway, Chicago, they are coming off a win at St. Louis. Good win, big win, but I don't know that they're going to be in a letdown spot here, man. They're coming back home. It was only a short trip to St. Louis, so it wasn't really a road trip or anything like that, a long road trip. Since they got their first win over Utah, they've been playing with some momentum. I know they're not a good team, but this is more about fading Vancouver, but I still think Chicago, they're at least in a momentum spot here, even though I know usually you do not want to play on a team that scored 8 goals in their previous game because they're going to look too good. But in this case, they're playing a team that just has more name recognition. Everybody considers that team to be better than they are, so I'm going to do it anyway. Soderblom was in net last time out for Chicago, so you're going to get their better goalie this time, which is Knight, although I actually think both of their goalies are actually fairly good, but I think Knight will be back in net for them, which I think is a fine thing, so I think you're going to get their first-string goalie in this game. As far as Vancouver is concerned, I do not like the spot for Vancouver, and I do think they're kind of a mediocre team right now, more so than being like a really good team like they were in the past. They did lose to St. Louis, so that does worry me about this handicap a little bit, where people are going to do that kind of, the recreational guys are going to say, oh, well, Chicago beat St. Louis, and St. Louis beat Vancouver, so that means Chicago should be able to beat Vancouver, right? So I hate that style of handicapping, but, I mean, usually I'll go against it when there's that, like, style of handicapping coming into play. But in this case, I'm going to do this anyway, because I do think Vancouver, I don't think the spot is good. They're in a back-to-back. They're on the back leg of a back-to-back, so they're pretty much definitely going to use Lankinen in net. So they're going to be on their second-string goalie here because Demko played yesterday, and they beat Dallas last night. So they're traveling up from Dallas to Chicago after beating Dallas, who I think might be the best team in hockey. Huge win for Vancouver in that game. If you look at what happened in that game, Dallas did outshoot them. The hits were somewhat similar. Dallas outfaced off them. So it's not like Vancouver statistically really necessarily won the game. And the game wasn't like that out of reach such that like either team was going to be in like total desperation mode. Both teams had a 2-goal lead at various points in the game, or at one point in the game. No team led by more than that. So I don't think it was a situation where either team was throwing up like desperation shots, but I think it's now a letdown spot with travel on a back-to-back, and they have Washington up next, which is also a team that might draw their focus, whereas the Chicago team, even though they've won 2 games, I still don't think the Chicago team is the team that is drawing a ton of focus from teams right now, even though, yes, they have one of the most talented young players in Bedard, but that was the case last year too. Yeah, I think it's a spot to fade Vancouver here, man. They only have 53% of tickets, 71% of the cash, and they're up from minus 138 to minus 141. But I faded the market read yesterday. I'm doing it again here. I'm going with my situational handicapping rather than the market read here. We're going to take the Blackhawks as the home underdog in this game, and that is it. I think the goaltender matchup, like the way the scheduling sets up, I think it's a letdown spot. It's a back-to-back. So, yeah, I mean, it caught my eye. I like it. We'll take the Blackhawks in that one. High-scoring team in any sport. You want the underneath, the under. Yeah, I mean, that is a way to handicap certain things. certainly, I mean, again, in hockey, I don't even know if I ever want to touch an under in hockey. I know that's not a way to really do it. Like if you want to play totals, you can't just avoid unders, but hockey seems to be the worst sport for unders just because empty net goals are so prevalent. It's just ridiculous. But like in football, I would definitely, I'll actually maybe talk about one of those. There is a situation where that is the case, Jeffrey. On Saturday, there's a college football game. I can mention it now if you want. Boise and UNLV. Those are two teams that just put up a shit ton of points in the last game. So I think an under may be worth a look in their game this week, which I can talk about more when I do. I'll talk about it. That'll be tonight because I'm talking about the Saturday college football tonight. Let's talk about college football for tonight here. We actually have 4 games, and they're all big conference games, I think, except for, the Mountain West, I guess, doesn't really count. But yeah, let's dive into this, man. ESPN has a pretty nice game up to start, even though I know it's not a really competitive line here, but I think this game might be competitive, and this would be my strongest opinion, but it's not going to make a play for me. Very close to being so, but I would lean to Louisville in this game between Louisville and Miami. Miami up to number 2 in the country. Still not totally sold that Miami is that good. I mean, do I think they're a top 10 team? Yes, I would say so. I mean, I didn't think they were to start the season. I'll say that they probably are now, but I don't think they're actually the number 2 team in the country. I think you got like Ohio State, Alabama. What are some of the other teams there? Oregon, I think, is probably still up there. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank here, but there are a few teams that are like absolutely like up there. I think Notre Dame, I actually think, is probably still one of those teams too. Miami, I think, is a little bit worse than some of those teams. But yeah, they've played really well so far. They've had a couple of big wins against Notre Dame. I don't put much stock into the USF win for Miami. That was a game I was on my show. I laid the points with Miami. USF was in a bad spot, and I think USF had no business being a ranked team. They're not really a top 25 team. Then Miami did beat Florida, who I think is underrated at the very least. Florida, I mean, we saw them beat Texas, so Florida does have the ability to play well against any good team, really, and they played well against LSU as well. Miami beat Florida State last time out, which is another pretty solid win, although maybe Florida State's not as good as we thought they were, man, because Florida State, what have they done since they beat Alabama? They haven't done anything. Their other wins are against East Texas A&M and Kent State, and I know they absolutely annihilated them, but since then they've lost to Virginia. We know Virginia's definitely good this year. They lost to this Miami team, like I said, and then they lost in the hangover spot against Pittsburgh last week. So, but maybe Florida State's maybe not quite as good as maybe they looked with that win over Alabama. But still a big win for Miami. I mean, that's a big interstate or intrastate, I guess, rivalry game. It's an in-state rivalry between Miami and Florida State. Huge win for Miami there. They actually had to go on the road to do it to Tallahassee. I thought Florida State was going to cover that game, and they came close to doing it. But now what I think that does is it sets up a letdown spot here for Miami, and they went into a bye off of that. And you know I talk about that. When a team goes into a bye, their bye is this late into the season, and they still don't have a loss, which is the case with Miami. They're 5-0. I think that's bad. I think it's a momentum killer, and you went into it with one of your best wins of the season. Like maybe they consider that to be their best. I don't know, because Notre Dame is still a rival too, but it's one of their best 2 wins of the season against Florida State, and that's how they go into the bye. Again, what do you do during your bye? You have nothing to fix. So that's a bit of an issue there, having a bye like that. So I think that's a negative for Miami. I don't think that's good. Louisville was kind of highly touted to start the season, like people talking about them competing for the ACC, and they still can. I mean, they've done pretty well so far. They just haven't really faced a difficult schedule so far, so I think they are a little bit under the radar now. The concern is their strength of schedule is very light. They beat James Madison, who is, a lower conference team, although they are a good lower conference team. They're definitely good. But their best win is, I guess, against Pitt on the road. That was their only big conference win so far. And then they did lose, where I was on Louisville in this game 2 weeks ago against Virginia, and Louisville lost that game. They probably shouldn't have lost the game. I mean, they were a favorite in the game. They lost in overtime. Statistically in this game, I think Louisville outplayed them, which I was complaining about. Louisville did kind of dominate Virginia. They should have won this game and covered, man. I'm pissed that was a loss for us on the show, because that was one of those situations where Virginia not used to being ranked, and you had the unranked Louisville team being a pretty substantial favorite. Louisville outgained them by 150 yards almost in the game. They were -2 in turnovers. They had 11 more first downs. They had the time of possession edge. No way Louisville should have lost that game, although they did. But I think that was a bad performance, and they lost as a favorite. So I actually think that them also going into a bye after that, I think that actually helps them because that loss was already a momentum stopper. So now I think the bye can kind of help you recover from that and help you fix things because that was actually kind of a bad game. They should have won as a favorite. They're going to be able to use that bye to prepare something for Miami here. So I think it's a better spot for Louisville here. I'm almost talking myself into a play here. I don't know. Do we really want to do it? My concerns would be that Louisville's strength of schedule isn't good, although we said that about Missouri last week, and they still covered against Alabama and debatably should have won that game. Although some of you guys might have had a push on Missouri in that game. And then Louisville, what else was I going to say about this? And then the fact that that's their first loss. Sometimes when a team takes their first loss, it can hang them over into the next game. But I do think that break that they had with the bye will be helpful in this case. Louisville's still a pretty good offense, man. I know their rushing attack has kind of suffered a little bit since they started facing somewhat better teams, but they did put up a lot of yards on the ground against James Madison. Still a pretty balanced attack, and they have Miller Moss, who transferred over from USC as their quarterback. He's still doing pretty well. So, I mean, this Louisville team is decent, and they're under the radar. Man, it's tempting. It's definitely tempting to do this. Teams pull their goalie. Yeah, they pull their goalies with like 4 minutes left in the game, man. Do we want to do it? Should we do this? I kind of like it, man. I think it is kind of a letdown spot here. Miami doesn't have anything big up next, though. They have to play Stanford, which is like a whatever type of game. But, I mean, I know it's a difficult environment to go from Louisville into Miami here, but it's a big stadium, and I saw the ticket prices on this, and it looked like the ticket prices were really cheap in this game. I don't know where can we see the ticket prices. There they are. $17 you can go to this game. You're probably going to be in the nosebleeds, but to me that kind of indicates that it's kind of like even though it's a big Friday night game, it's kind of like, I don't know, it looks like it's not sold out. Even though it is a big stadium where Miami plays, but this is like right on the borderline for me. You have Miami with 78% of tickets, only 60% of the cash. So they're public with less of the money on them. The total's dropping from 53.5 all the way down to the key 51. So if you want the under, I would say you got to get on that before it goes below 51. 80% of tickets on the over, 68% of the cash on the under. So the money is coming in on the under, and the under should help the underdog because it means the points are worth more. And I know Miami's kind of considered to be this, high-flying offense with Carson Beck there and whatever, but they're not really. I mean, whenever they've stepped up and they played a bigger conference team, their offense didn't put up a ton of points. They put up 27 against Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's defense has been pretty ugly this year, so that's not a lot of points. 26 against Florida. Florida's defense is pretty good. And then Florida State, I don't know if we even know how good Florida State's defense is. Miami put up 28 against them, so Miami really hasn't been lighting the world on fire with their offense, which I think Louisville, I mean, they've been able to score a little bit more than Miami has, actually. So does that mean Louisville actually has the better offense? Maybe. You know what? Yeah, fuck it. Let's do it. This is going to be, one of my plays that I like the least. I don't think you're going to get 14 on this, though. We'll do it. We'll do Louisville plus 13 here. Probably won't get 14 on this, but let's fucking do it. Close to being a play for me anyway, so we'll do it on that one. I will add it as a play. Let's hope that we get this done here. That means I'm going to add it to my college pick'em entries here. So hopefully that, like the money ones, so hopefully it'll work out because I'm probably going to have about 3 or 4 plays on tomorrow's card. I think it's just there, like just as strong enough. All right, let's get this done. Hopefully this won't be too long of a video here. We have a Big Ten matchup at 8 p.m. on Fox. Nebraska, who's now in the top 25. Our Nebraska man, Nate, not in the chat here this morning. He usually comes into the college football night game, so he's going to miss the Nebraska analysis. They're at Minnesota here. Minnesota, not a very good team. Nebraska, is definitely worthy of being ranked. They're a good team, pretty good on both sides of the football. I know I make fun of the Patrick Mahomes wannabe, Raiola. He's been okay, but Nebraska's had a decent, they've had a balanced offensive attack is what I mean to say. Like, they've been putting up decent rushing stats, and their defense is good too. So they're a pretty balanced team. They're good in kind of every phase of the game. And they're coming off a win that was not really a great win at Maryland. I mean, this Maryland team is good defensively, though. So the fact that this was a high-scoring game was kind of weird between these two good defenses. Total was in the 40s in that game, and they scored over 60 combined. Kind of weird. But Nebraska was a road favorite in that game, and they almost lost the game. But it was kind of a weird travel spot for them. It was actually their first road game of the season. So you can kind of explain why they didn't do that well in that game. Now it's a second straight road game. Yeah, but it's a more familiar environment to them, going to a team that's been in the Big Ten for a long time in Minnesota. So that aspect of it isn't terrible for them, although it is still a second straight road game on a bit of a short week, although both teams are having to play on a short week here. Minnesota sitting at 4-2, probably not as good as that record looks, as some of their wins are, they beat Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo's not bad for a MAC team, I guess. Northwestern State, an FCS team, not a good win there. Lost on the road to Cal, who isn't great, although you can kind of write that off because having to go to the Pacific Coast first road game of the season, not a really good spot for Minnesota there. They beat Rutgers, who just really doesn't have a good defense this year. Decent win, I guess, and then they lost to Ohio State. I mean, obviously you can't blame them for that, losing on the road to Ohio State. And then they did bounce back with a win over Purdue. Minnesota was a favorite. They were one of my survivor picks last week. We survived. I had Minnesota and Houston in Survivor last week. I thought it was a good spot to use them. I got to figure out who I'm using this week. I think I'm going to use Notre Dame as one of them this week, though. Even though it's in a rivalry game, I'm still going to do it because Notre Dame isn't available, I think, in any of the remaining weeks in that game. The way that game, the games that they let you pick in that Survivor pool on Splash Sports is very strange how they decide which games are available each week. So I think Notre Dame's not available for the rest of the season, so it makes sense to use them here. But anyway, Minnesota, we got it with the Survivor pick there. They barely won by 7. Purdue was actually down close to the goal line at the end of that game, knocking on the door. I think they got stopped because they had like a 4th and goal from the 9, which isn't a great situation. I mean, once you get into a 4th down situation with that many yards to go, not easy to get into the end zone. Minnesota was able to stop them, win the game. They're staying at home. It is a big game. Minnesota doesn't get to play too many of these primetime games to play host to them. They did play one of them, I think, against California. I think maybe that was a Saturday game against California. I don't even remember. But should be a big game for them at home against Nebraska. And, I'm going to slightly lean that way to taking the points with Minnesota. I mean, I could see this being a lower scoring game. You got a pretty ugly offense with Minnesota, which is kind of the concern here. Nebraska does play good defense. 74% of tickets and cash both on the over. Total's already dropped from 49 down to 46.5. If you do want the under, I would say you want to get it at under 47, which is the key number there. But because the total's so low, I think Minnesota plus the points is actually kind of worth a look here. Nebraska up from 5.5 to 7, laying a lot of points on the road here. Second straight road game. Minnesota staying at home. Maybe able to slow Nebraska down a little bit. 55% of tickets, 63% of the cash coming in on Minnesota. Could be one of those games that's just more defense-oriented in general, which does kind of lend itself more towards the underdog covering. And the money looks like it is coming in on that underdog side. So, Saab, what's up, man? You like Louisville as well? Miami's coach is terrible. That's true. Mario Cristobal. This might be the type of game where he fucks something up because it seems to be in those games that seem like they're games that Miami should win easily and they just fuck it up. You're right, Cristobal. He's bad as a favorite. That's also true. You're fading the Red Wings off 3 big wins. You like Tampa. I agree with that one as well. Not a play for me, but I agree. Let's get it done, man. Hell yeah, let's do it. You think Miami has caught some teams in favorable spots? Yeah, I mean, they caught South Florida in a favorable spot. I played Miami twice, actually. I played them, or I gave them out as plays on the show, I should say, at least, against Notre Dame and against USF. But they did win that Florida game, though, and that was a bad spot, I thought, for Miami in that one. Florida did not get the job done for us. And then Miami, I didn't think that they were going to cover against Florida State, although they did. Really, I think the teams that they caught in disadvantageous spots were really just Notre Dame and South Florida, though. I think those were the two games where Miami had the situational advantage, which is why I was on Miami in those two games. But yeah, I mean, you're right about Cristobal. Not a good coach. Maybe Louisville actually has the coaching edge for that reason. San Jose State at Utah State at 9 p.m. on CBS Sports. May actually be kind of a fun game. I mean, it's a high total. Both of these teams have pretty decent offenses, really, and kind of lackluster defenses. Total has dropped from 64.5 to 61.5. Seems weird to me because usually when you have a high total like this, usually the odds makers are telling you something and that you kind of want to look towards an over, but the money's coming in on the under. 81% of tickets on the over, 52% of the cash on the under. Utah State is a 4-point home favorite, 87% of tickets, only 82% of the cash on them. I do think San Jose State might be a little bit undervalued at this point because I think at the beginning of the season, pretty much everybody had San Jose State as the better of these two teams. We didn't know what Utah State was going to be because Bronco Mendenhall was coming in, implementing a new system. Utah State's looked fairly decent so far. They actually played pretty competitively against Texas A&M and Vandy, putting up a lot of points against those two teams, which is saying something because those two teams have decent defenses. So this offense has been pretty good for Utah State. Their defense maybe not so much. They're coming off 2 straight road losses here. They're having to travel back from Hawaii with no time off, so that does make it pretty difficult for Utah State. So if you want to fade Utah State, that would be part of the reason to do so, is a travel back on a short week from Hawaii seems kind of ridiculous. Although these teams kind of do that sometimes. I mean, they're somewhat used to it because that happens in the Mountain West sometimes because Hawaii's in that conference. But yeah, I mean, it's still a fairly weird spot, and I think maybe Utah State has kind of reached like the peak of their value here. They do have like a balanced offensive attack, though. They can throw the ball, they can run the ball. San Jose State, more of a one-dimensional offense, I think, where they mostly just throw the ball. They are coming off an ugly loss at Wyoming, where San Jose State was definitely a favorite in that one. But going to Wyoming, I know we don't want to talk about the UNLV game there that they definitely should have lost, but Wyoming, difficult place to play. I mean, it's high elevation. They got snow out there now. So, it's not an easy environment to have to go into. San Jose State lost that game. Ugly loss because they were a favorite. Wyoming's not a good team. San Jose State, it was just kind of a weird game. I mean, they won the turnover battle, lost the yardage battle slightly, and had the possession edge, but still didn't win the game. They had a lot of penalties, which I think was kind of part of the reason they lost this game was just discipline issues for San Jose State. But I think it's more of a bounce back spot for them here. They're also on the short week, but they're only traveling from Wyoming to Utah State, so not as much of a travel spot for them there. It's a fairly short trip, really. So I think the spot sets up better for San Jose State. I think there might be some value there because to start the season, San Jose State was supposed to be the better of these two teams, and I'm not sure that's not still the case. I mean, the line is telling you that maybe Utah State is a slightly better team now as far as the odds makers are telling you. Don't know if that's totally accurate. So, yeah, if I was going to play it, I would take the points with San Jose State in that one. You like the Mariners' money line, even though you have the Jays to win. As you know, I have the Mariners to win the World Series in my bracket, but it was not a bet. But you could have gotten them at an 8-1 to start the playoffs, though, for the Mariners. Public is definitely on Toronto today. That is true. The market read is saying to take Seattle here, but is Seattle really going to lose 3 home games? I mean, of course, it's a lot easier for that to happen when they've already lost 2. And then we have this final late game, which is pretty ugly, man. This might be uglier than that San Jose State-Utah State game, because at least I think if you like offense, you're going to see some in that game, see some fireworks. This North Carolina and Cal game, oh my God. 10:30 p.m., North Carolina, an East Coast team, having to play a late night game on the Pacific Coast. You know what I say about that. Bad spot. It fucks with your biological clock. You have to play this really late game that's going to end maybe, 1 a.m., 1:30 a.m., your time, Eastern. That's pretty bad for your biological clock. This North Carolina team, they've been really bad defensively over the last few years, but their offense has been really good. And now it's like they're not even good on either side of the ball right now. Bill Belichick coming in hasn't been good. Their offense has been awful. Their offense has been so bad that I think they switched away from Gio Lopez, who transferred over from South Alabama. He wasn't getting it done, and they used Johnson last week. I'm assuming it was an actual quarterback change and not an injury, but neither of them really getting the job done. North Carolina is coming out of a bye, so that will help a little bit with the fact they're having to travel to the Pacific Coast here. But it's their first time traveling out of the Eastern time zone this season, which is obviously not easy. And not a team that's used to playing at Cal because they're pretty new to the ACC. I don't think they've had to make that trip yet, and North Carolina has not. North Carolina did go into the bye on a bad note. They got blown out in 2 straight games against Central Florida and Clemson. Clemson's still probably better than what people think they are right now, though. I mean, maybe a little bit overhyped to start the season, but not as bad as what they look to start the season, I don't think. North Carolina got annihilated by them, but when you have a bye like that, it does help you fix shit. Like, you want to have a bye when you're on a bad note, when you're playing poorly, because you can fix things in the bye. But still, this travel spot looks pretty difficult. They do have a ranked Virginia team up next, though. North Carolina, because they've been playing so poorly, I don't think they're really going to overlook anybody. Cal actually off to a good start at 4-2, although they faced an easy schedule. Their best win is, I guess, this road win against Boston College. BC's been playing some pretty poor football, man. I thought that was a good spot for BC. I thought BC should have won that game. BC was the home favorite. Very strange travel spot for Cal in that one. Cal still was able to get the win there. Their other decent win, I guess, was this home win against Minnesota. So when they had that unfamiliar team coming in, they did beat Minnesota, but they lost to Duke before going into the bye. Duke actually, maybe not a bad team. I thought that was kind of a bad spot for Duke having to go out to the Pacific Coast, but the discrepancy there was like Duke had the worst record versus Cal, but Duke was like a road favorite despite being on the Pacific Coast. In the market, it was a hard game to read because that kind of told you that Duke was the right side, looking at how they were favored as the team with the worst record, but it was like a bad situational spot for Duke, so it was a hard read in that one. Cal took a loss in that one, so they actually went into a bye on a bad note as well, losing to Duke, and they're not traveling. They're staying at home, and they're probably going to be up for this, because their last game they played here was ugly, losing to Duke. Now they get to try to redeem themselves against Duke's rival in North Carolina. On ESPN, they get to host this ESPN isolated primetime game. I do think it sets up better for Cal in this one. Cal is laying a ton of points. This is crazy to see Cal being this much of a favorite. They're actually down from 10.5 to 8 here. 57% of tickets, only 56% of the cash on North Carolina. North Carolina, somehow, even though they've been absolute ass, North Carolina is a public underdog in this game. Don't ask me how that's the case. Maybe it's the Belichick effect. I mean, I have no idea. Belichick, I don't even think is a good coach, man. Name one good thing he's done when he has not had a man named Tom Brady on his team. You can't, because it doesn't exist. The total in this game is low, though, down from 48 to 47. So we're expecting more struggles from North Carolina's offense, I guess. That makes laying the points a little bit less tempting because the total's low. But that's still the way that I would lean, though. If I was going to play this game, I would lay it with Cal. Anti-public home favorite like that. Very bad travel spot, at least for North Carolina. Both teams are in the bye advantage spot, so I think that kind of cancels itself out. So that's the way that I would lean in that one. You think the line's too big on Cal? You lean to them anyway. UNC, it's not double digits though; it's 8, which is, if you like Cal, that's a better number, obviously. You think Cal's going to win in a blowout? I mean, I could see that. I mean, I don't disagree with the Cal side, obviously. I do agree with it. The Red Wings coach, who is their coach now? I don't even know. That's good. Yeah, I don't listen. Maybe I should. I should listen to more of the press conferences, see what the coach and the players are saying, because, like, basically you want them to always be, like, slightly negative, if that makes sense. Like, you always want to hear them saying something like, we have some shit to work on here. Even if things are going well, you still kind of want to hear that. You don't want to hear them talking about how things are, like, so good or they're too good or something like that, right? Because that is almost like a demotivational thing, right? Like, as a coach, I think you always want to be, like, striving to be a little bit better than you currently are. So I think that's the better way to do it. I think that's more of a motivator, but not like beating your team down to the point where they hate you. You know what I mean? It's like you're towing a line there. I don't know. When you hear like certain clips, like you'll kind of know. And then like if a team is playing like, a bad team, like what you want to hear the coach saying is like, stuff like we can't overlook this team. You know what I mean? Like this team is actually not that bad. Whatever, something like that. Like we need to, to try to get the team focused. So, as we do with our handicapping on this show, teams are not always going to give 100% effort in every game. So that's how we handicap. Thanks, guys, for hanging out again. My plays today are the Blackhawks in hockey as the home underdog on the money line. And we're going to go with Louisville in college football plus 13. I was back and forth as to whether I wanted to make that a play. When I first saw that spot, I was like, I definitely am going to have Louisville on my card. Then I was kind of rethinking it, saying, maybe it's not quite strong enough. And now I'm like, yeah, all right, fuck it. Not my favorite of the week, but it's on the card. Yanni from Wager Talk, Vegas Runner, VR, Ace. Yeah. Some guys that I talk to don't like Yanni at all, and I do. I think I like his stuff, man. The way that he reads the markets. I tend to agree with him more often than I don't. He gives us sharp action reports. If you join Wager Talk on, if you pay them a little bit of money or whatever on YouTube, you get his Steam report videos, which they used to be not behind the paywall, and it's some really good stuff there. I think maybe they've released like maybe one of them not behind the paywall this year just to kind of lure you in. He said there was sharp action on North Carolina. Well, I would disagree with that move. You know what? It could have been a fake move, right? Like, so Yanni, like, he'll report, like, because he's like, the reason why he's Vegas Runner, I was going to get out of here, but I'll talk about it. The reason why he's Vegas Runner is because back in the day, he's originally from Philadelphia, but back in the day, he was a runner in Vegas when you had to bet physically at casinos. He was working for these, like, betting syndicates, these groups, which he still does now. But back then, you actually literally had to run up and down the strip to make the bets physically. Yet, like, you're trying to find the best number, like whatever casino has the best number. So he was doing that. That's how he got the name Vegas Runner. And he still does that now, but it's all like online now, so you don't have to physically run anymore, even though he's in better shape now. He used to be like a chubby dude, and he lost a lot of weight, so good for him, and he's kept it off. Maybe a little bit of cosmetic surgery going on with him and some fake tan action, but yeah, he definitely looks better, and he's kept the weight off. So, but anyway, yeah, so he used to run up and down the strip to find the best number, right? At whatever book had the best number to get that bet in. I think the way that he works is like he gets a percentage of what those groups win, and he's really in tune with like what is going on in the market because he has access to what all those groups are betting, and they're all groups of professionals. So he could tell you, yeah, like this professional group is betting this side. He has groups that he knows how these groups operate too. So maybe this is a group that will like actually be more prone to like setting up a line. Like it's a fake move when they do it at the beginning, maybe because they're more used to doing that. Some groups won't even do that. And some groups just will play like a given side and that they actually like that side. I'm pretty sure that North Carolina, my guess based on what we just saw with that market there, I'm not a market reader like him. I'm not on the inside like he is, but my guess would be that because the line was right on the key number of 10, my guess would be that there are some groups, maybe some actually like North Carolina, but I think what happened really was that more of the professionals that actually bet it were trying to hammer that line down below 10 to get it lower so they could actually come back on the real side that they actually want, which is Cal, and lay the points at a better price at below 10. That would be my guess because I talk about that on the show. Professional bettors will do that because they know that they have respect with the odds makers, and that whenever they bet something, the odds makers will move the line. And when they bet early like that, the limits are lower because the odds makers will not allow you to bet like huge amounts yet when they first put their line out because they want to try to figure out where the line really should be to split the action. So like you might see like a fake move for some smaller amount right away because the professionals know that bet will still cause the line to move. And then after the line moves and the limits open up, then they'll actually come back with their real bet on the side that they actually want. And the odds makers can't really know which they actually think, because if they like a side, they still might just throw like a small limit bet out there and then come back with more on that same side if they continue to like it. So the odds makers can't really tell which one is going to be the case. So I think that was a fake move in that one, would be my opinion, but I don't know for sure. Yeah. I'm almost thinking of the O'Reilly auto parts. I was like, Ozempic. Do you guys know the O'Reilly auto parts, or is that only a thing up in Boston? O'Reilly. I don't even know what the Ozempic song is. But all I could think of was the O'Reilly auto parts. Auto parts. The fake move on Duke with the low limits, the jump back on Georgia Tech with the higher limits. That might be the case. Interesting, because Georgia Tech is, you'd think that Georgia Tech would be a very heavily public side this week. So, the professionals are not always going to be opposite the public. I haven't really dug into that game much yet, so I'm going to talk about that game tonight, most likely, because it is a big enough game that it will be one of the ones I talk about tonight. So we'll figure it out. So some extra info there. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. That's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Better Off Dead. Like, subscribe to the channel here. Let's get some more views on this thing, man. Let's keep going, man. I want to monetize this thing. Let's get some super chats going on. Maybe have some paywalled streams. That would be cool. Because I do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/LearnToToad. Although it's all Uke content behind the paywall. You can go to Covered in Uke, my Uke channel on YouTube, and see my Uke stuff there. I'm one Uke cover behind there right now, and I'm multiple behind on the Patreon. So I have to fix that. There's a Patreon Uke feed there and prioritize requests. And, of course, Better Off Dead, we're on audio as well, so like and subscribe there. Or not like and subscribe, but what am I talking about? Yeah, well, do whatever you can on the audio platforms. Give me a review and listen. All of that helps me out on the audio. We've been getting bigger audio numbers. They're very small still, but they're increasing, so let's keep it going. We've been on a nice run. I want to keep this run going, man. I don't want it to ever end, but in betting, you're going to have major downswings too, so which is never a fun time, but hopefully you can avoid having like the really bad ones. It could continue to just be consistent, grind. Let's get it done. Let's get some wins on these plays today. That's going to do it, man. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Sob, Dirty Sock, Ben, Jeffrey, Stacks. Did I get everybody? I want to get enough listeners here, the viewers, that I can't even do that anymore. But thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I'll be back tonight around midnight Eastern for the college football show, as usual. We're going to definitely have at least, I would say, 3 more plays. I have to start digging in and handicapping it more seriously, but I have a few plays that are almost definitive at this point. So we'll look and we'll see what happens. That'll be tonight. Peace out until then, man.